Hi everyone, welcome to week 3. We're at the halfway point of the class. At the end of this week, we'll have 3 more weeks left. It's moving really quickly. So this week, we're going to be talking about specific learning disabilities, often referred to as SLD. We're also going to be looking at the disability categories of visually impaired, hearing impairment, and deaf blindness, and then also speech and language disabilities. So that's just a quick overview of what we'll be learning about. And we have my little buddy here, Satchmo. He's my 9-month-old sheepdog puppy who's decided he's going to join us for my overview today. So if we hear any barking or any weirdness, we will know exactly where it's coming from. It's coming from Satch. Anyhow, this week, our learning materials, as usual, you will have read, watch, and explore under our readings and multimedia. There's going to be a lot of learning here about inclusive education. And I know we've started talking about that. We've started talking about universal design. So now we're going to start putting it under that whole big umbrella of inclusive education. What are its benefits, an overview of what it is, etc. You're also going to be looking at deaf culture. And then I have a fact sheet for you about specific language impairments. And something just as a point of reference, remember there's a difference between a speech impairment and a language impairment. Speech is actually how things are produced. So articulation and being able to be understood because you're not speaking clearly versus language, which could be you don't understand something or you're unable to express something. So there's receptive and expressive language impairments. There are also some videos for you to watch about segregation. Dan Habib has done some pretty great documentaries about his son Sam. So if you want to go down that rabbit hole, Google Sam Habib after you watch his disabling segregation TED Talk. That would be great. Also about deaf and hard of hearing students and adaptations for students with visual impairments, and then a video about learning disabilities. And then as far as exploration goes, I did let you know that chapters 2, 7, 11, 12, and 13 are the ones in the supplemental text if you're using that as a reference or a guide. And there's also a website about what a speech impairment is if you want to dig a little bit deeper. And as always, I encourage you to do your own research in any of these areas if you want to find out more. So for our discussion this week, we have something a little bit different. I'm going to ask you to complete 2 simulations. They're both in the discussion section of the module. One is a simulation about what it's like to have dyslexia, so the specific learning disability of dyslexia, which is a reading disability. And the other one is for an auditory processing disorder. And then I want you to think about how it felt to try on those specific learning disabilities. And how do you think those specific learning disabilities could impact a child's social and emotional development? And then really think about, these are invisible disabilities. This isn't a child coming into a classroom in a wheelchair where everybody can tell, yes, they have a disability. This is a, typically developing child in every other way, but they have a disability that nobody can see. You have to excuse the tissues. It's allergy season around here. And then we've already talked about classroom modifications and accommodations. So think about these specific invisible disabilities and what can you suggest as accommodations or modifications to assess students with specific learning disabilities to access their learning. And then really think about what you've learned and read this week and how does that apply to your experience using both of those simulators. And then finally, for our assignment this week, again, we're going to focus on you presenting information to others. So you have a choice to make. You can either prepare a brief presentation. So remember, presentations always have to have a narration. And it will be, the audience for this is going to be for families and general ed teachers about the importance of inclusion in classrooms. And I did give you prompts about how you would propose to include a child, the difference between just having a child in a classroom and a child being meaningfully included in that classroom. Also, think about that continuum of adult supports. Do we jump right to say, yes, that child should be included, but they need to have a one-to-one all the time? That's a pretty intensive intervention to put in place. What is there on the way to thinking about that one-to-one that you could be doing that would build that child's independence skills? There are going to be very few children that do require one-to-ones, but there are many children who can be supported with other kinds of classroom supports in order to access their education. So that's your first option. Your second option is to develop either develop a poster or a handout for families and general ed teachers. Now, a lot of you that developed handouts and posters for your previous assignment, um, I noted to you, make sure you're really careful about the reading level. The recommendation typically for anything that you're handing out to families is to keep things at a sixth grade level, reading level, which I think I pointed out to many of you, you can find out in Word if you go to the editor function. Actually, all you have to do is put in the help, how to find the reading level, and you'll find directions on how to do it. So to make sure that it is accessible and in plain language and that everybody can access it. If the reading level is too high, you will have some families that will not have the same understanding that you're trying to have everybody to have. Use the same prompts as I gave you for the examples in a presentation. And then also, if you're going to be doing a poster or a handout, make sure you include live links to resources for families and teachers if they want to continue their exploration. You can also do that in the presentation as well. Mention places where they can go for more information, but especially in a poster or a handout, make sure that those links are live and that families would be able to go and find more information for those places. So that is really our week 3 in a nutshell. There was one thing that I wanted to make sure that I let all of you know about. I think I might have written to some of you in previous week's assignment to let you know that there's actually a 14th disability category in IDEA that you may not know about. It's called developmental delay, and it's optional. States may choose whether or not they want to have this category. And then the states also get to choose within certain parameters who will fall under this or be able to be considered for it. For instance, in Connecticut, 3 to 5-year-olds can be categorized under this developmental delay, but before their 6th birthday, in order to remain on an IEP, they need to be identified in one of the other 13 categories. So you may want to, if you're interested, if you're working with young children, you may want to look up your state and see what the guidelines are for developmental delay under the IDEA in your state. If you have any questions, you all know how to find me, and I hope all of you have a wonderful week. Take care.